Trendsetters, welcome to another installment of the From Local to Global series. I am your host, Safira Sanders. In this episode, I had the opportunity to sit down with Simon Chrisman. He's a super passionate entrepreneur, loves helping out startups, and during our conversation, he's really going to drop some gems on how to find a mentor and what a good mentor looks like. So if you're interested in learning a lot more about Simon and digging into how to successfully launch a business hand in hand with the mentor, continue to watch this video. Before I dive into my conversation with Simon, I want to thank my great sponsors, starting with the Port of Tacoma. It's basically the economic engine of Tacoma. If you have a small business of any sort, you're going to receive products from somewhere. I am pretty sure the Port of Tacoma has a hand in it. Check out their websites, get into their resources, and see what Port of Tacoma can do for you and what partnership you can form with them. They have this amazing alliance with different countries all over the world, which is making it easier for you to source products. So again, check out their website and get into the Port of Tacoma. The next sponsor I'm going to thank is Traction Space. They have the great private offices in the public space, as well as the virtual office that I've been screaming about. If you have any content that you would like to produce, they also offer those services, and they're just a great space, hence Traction Space, to create content, get work done, and also to build relationships. So with that said, I want you to click the link in the description and book a tour right now. So the last sponsor I want to thank is the William Factory Incubator. You guys know how much I've just enjoyed working with this company and again looking to the things that we do together in the new year. So if you are a company that is having some difficulty scaling, or if you want to have more of a community impact, I definitely encourage you to touch base with the William Factory Incubator. Or if you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you really have no idea how or where to start, again, touch base with the William Factory Incubator. Their team is always happy and excited to help. They have definitely helped me. So with that said, I want to thank all of my sponsors. Make sure to click the links in the description box so that you're able to utilize their resource. And now let me dive into this conversation with Simon. I'm so excited to be able to present him to you. So Simon, let's start with how you got started. What was sort of like your motivation and your drive to lead you into your entrepreneurial life?
Of course, Safira. I actually didn't plan to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't something that I'd set out to do, become an entrepreneur as a career move. When I left university, I did a science degree at university. When I left university, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I joined a database marketing company in a business development role. And about 6 months into that, together with a colleague of mine, we thought we could do what the company was doing in a slightly different and better way. So and this is quite normal for people to leave organizations and set up on their own and with the experience that they've got from other companies. So I left this company, we started up a business, and actually we couldn't do it better than they were doing it. We were wrong, but we found something to do, and we set up a business, and it grew reasonably well. And it's the first and only business that I've been involved in that I also ran. So I went from founder to founder and CEO, and that's the traditional way most people start businesses. But I found, Safira, that running a business, I found really hard work. The management of people, all the different moving parts it was really hard work. And the part I enjoyed was starting the business, the whole entrepreneurial startup. And that was where my passion was. And I said to my business partner, I'm going to go off and start something else. You run the business. I kept my shareholding, my stake in the business, and I'm involved in the board, and set up another business with somebody else. And when that business reached a stage where it was starting to get revenue and traction and we were employing people, I found somebody to run the business and moved on. And that's what I've been doing pretty much ever since. I've been involved in starting businesses, the early stage entrepreneurial part, which is very different to managing and running a business later on. It's different skills. So that's how I got into it. So it wasn't a case of I knew what I wanted to do. It was a case of situation and chance pushed me into an entrepreneurial direction, and I've loved it ever since.
Absolutely. So my biggest question is that like a lot of myself, as well as a lot of our viewers, they are also in that startup phase. And I know that I do love the whole business plan and looking at my projections and my trend forecasting and a lot of the basic foundation that you need in order to get everything started. But what would you say your favorite part about the startup process? Is it sort of like that initial idea, brainstorming, hiring different people, like your absolute top favorite part of the startup process?
Without a shadow of doubt, my favorite part and the bit that I really concentrate on as a mentor nowadays to entrepreneurs is actually finding customers, the first customer groups. Not only is it almost the most important thing to do, I really enjoy it. It's such a fundamental part of being an entrepreneur. And business plans themselves are right at the very beginning. They're good practice, but they're fantasy documents. They really are. We will turn over X much in 3 years, and this is how the cash flow is going to go, and all of these things. We don't know the future, so they're the sort of things that investors and people who want to get involved in the business want to see.
Absolutely.
But they're not as useful as finding your first customers for your idea. So the whole idea stage is where my passion is, and finding customers for those.
Oh, that's really cool. I think also too, how we kind of just discussed in our personal conversation, just the importance of that customer persona, really knowing like their entire day through and through. That way you're able to integrate yourself sort of just like very naturally and organically into their already products and services. So I think that it's really cool for a mentor such as yourself to have such a realistic view. As entrepreneurs, especially startups like mine, we are always, drilled that business plan should be tight. It should be tight. It should be tight. And I think it's really cool and refreshing to hear someone say, you know what, that's actually a fantasy document. There's other ways that you can be, using your time and your resources. So I think that's very refreshing.
Thank you.
And I know that you said that you are currently a mentor, and that's where you get sort of like your most pleasure from. So kind of just backing up a little bit before you jump into your mentorship role right now, what you're currently doing, what was sort of like that last company that you left that official role in, sort of like being the CEO and the startup guru, if you will? What was that last position, and how was that transitioning from becoming a doer to a mentor and a teacher and lending your expertise in that area, in those areas?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I haven't stopped starting businesses, even though I've become a mentor. So I have businesses around mentoring and around startups now. But the last one that I left or started and then left before taking the path that I'm taking now was an organization called Sales Out, and they managed data for food and drink brands, companies like Coca-Cola, Unilever, Nestle, and we managed wholesale data where in the UK you don't these brands didn't get a view of which shops, which outlets products would be delivered to. They just knew that they shipped it to a wholesaler, and we managed that data. So it was a company that was managing data, and it actually grew to a reasonable level, and we got acquired. But I wasn't running the company when we got acquired. I was actually in South Africa. My wife's from South Africa, and we were over there. And I got a phone call from the CEO of a large marketing organization offering to buy the business. And of course, the first thing one would say in negotiation is it's not for sale, because you're trying to bring up the price, and that's Absolutely. How things go. And but that was the last business I was actually involved in that was separate from what I'm doing now. But what I'm doing now also involves starting businesses that are all around helping people do startups. So it's not just providing mentoring. I have a number of businesses now that are focused on different aspects of starting a business with different people.
No, I think that's very interesting too. I think all entrepreneurs are sort of like serial entrepreneurs. And sometimes, growing up, you might hear like, hey, you need to find something and stick to it. So I think like it's really just encouraging to hear that, you know what, like I like doing this. I don't like doing this, and I sort of kind of move on and find my own niche and my own happiness within my career. So I know that you just discussed, startups, and you love that aspect of it, the ideas and the customer journeys and such. But what do you think are like some of the biggest failures that startups happen to run into, or some of the obstacles that startups happen to run into that don't necessarily maneuver out of it correctly? Like, what are some of those biggest obstacles, and how have you been able to maneuver around them so you're successful on the other end?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, actually, Safira, because if you look at the data, and I've spent a lot of time with my colleagues in this arena, both mentors and experienced entrepreneurs, about analyzing the biggest reasons for startup failure. And if you look at reports such as those by CB Insights and some of the big reporting companies on startups, you'll find that no matter what region you're in the world, no matter what sector, by far the two biggest reasons for startup failure, number one by a long way, is no customer need or no market need. That's the single biggest. Once your friends and your family have stopped buying your product, there's no need out there in the market for customers, or a new player comes into the market, consumers change, and you lose customers that way. So no customer need, no market need is by far the biggest reason for failure. The second one, which is it's the second biggest reason, but there's a number of reasons around this, is the wrong team, having the wrong people in place to make the business work, to make the idea work, to run the business. And that manifests itself in things like running out of cash. So businesses run out of cash. That's normally a facet of having the wrong people in place that haven't planned for those eventualities or the skills. Now, there's a number of things that can be done about both of those particular reasons. And the first one, no customer need, no market need, is my biggest passion: idea validation, finding customers. So
as we discussed, which I thought was just amazing.
And it really is, because when I started, 35 years ago, starting businesses, well, for a start, there wasn't the internet. So we didn't have that route to market, but we didn't have the ability to run a lot of the experiments that we can run with customer groups today in those days. So there was a lot more chance involved. Now you can actually run some really, really cool experiments with customer groups over the internet to find out if there's a market need, if there's a customer need. So for instance, once you've got your business plan, once you've got, I tend to use either a business model canvas or a lean canvas, a single page where you can put down.
I love, I again was sort of talking to cut you off, but I was taught to sort of do like this long 60-page, document without these appendages. And then I realized like the nice little one sheet, and how it gave you such a snapshot of your company, where you want to go, who's your customers, how you're going to market you. Like, it's literally a game changer. And it's something that's so not discussed, nor is it implemented with a lot of small businesses. So I just wanted to chime in and just let you know, it's been a game changer. And I'm really, looking forward to you explaining that to our audience and just sort of elaborating a little bit more.
Well, it really is a game changer, because as I mentioned earlier, a long business plan is a long plan of fantasy. Whereas if you can put it into a one pager, the overall concept, and you can break it down. And there are a number of different canvases that people use and are comfortable with. But if you can frame what you're doing in a single page, it gives you a clear picture of what you want to achieve. And there are certain things that's really important to do, such as, it doesn't make sense to launch a business where it costs more to produce your product than what you sell it at. You're never going to turn a profit, and if that's going to be always the case in your business. So there's certain things that are just common sense that you put down and a sense checks. So the canvas is so important. But following on from the canvas, where the part of the canvas that focuses on the customer groups is really, really important as a separate part to that one page document. So the customer profiles is really, really key to understanding how your product's going to get to market, who's going to buy it, how you're going to get to them. So for example, we're different generations. Okay. So if I want to sell a product to, or I'm looking to sell a product to you, Safira, or I was looking to sell it to somebody of my generations, there'll be different ways of connecting with us. For instance, I use LinkedIn primarily as my main source, but I'm also for friends and family on Facebook. My daughter's on these, Instagrams and TikToks and your generation of platforms. So to connect with the customer groups, you give them a profile. So if the profile for me is sort of older men, call it Simon. How do you get to Simon? What's Simon's interests? If it's young ladies, then call the profile Safira. And how would I get Safira? What motivates Safira in that idea domain that I'm looking at? So it's all about understanding the different profiles of your customers. Who's going to buy them, really get close to them, really get to it. How do you contact, what are they interested in? What platforms, what types of messaging? You get really close to your customer profiles. And then the next stage, which is a really fun stage for me, is the idea validation. So the experimenting with those customer profiles of the different messaging that I put out. So I tend not to use surveys. I think, unless you're a professional survey company where you actually understand how to do surveys, it's a really risky business as not being a professional in this to run surveys, because people lie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people fill in surveys with strongly agree, because they just want to get through them. And that can be so misleading that it's much better to do idea validation where people don't know that they're being tested. And there are simple ways of doing idea validation, as I mentioned, over the internet, and there are more complex ones. So an idea of a simple one is put up a landing page. You can get free landing pages from places like MailChimp, which can manage the data from there. Perfect. Put up a landing page and say, this is my, this is what I'm going to be doing. So you basically put your idea. If you'd like more information, please give me your email address and I'll send you more information. That does two things. One, if people don't bounce off the page, and you're able to measure bounce rates, that there's a level of interest, they're reading it. And B, if they give the email address, they've had to jump through, they've had to do something. So that there's a level of interest. So it's a form of validation. It's weak validation, but strong validation is things like a crowdfunding model with pre-sales. So saying, I'm going to produce this product, this service, I'm going to offer this. I'll offer a limited amount for $20 each, and you offer it in a pre-sale that people give money to, and it's held in escrow like a crowdfunding model. There, the price points, you test it with your customer, they're actually giving money, and you haven't had to produce your product or service at all. You're still at the idea stage, and yet you're really getting close to customers. So that's so important. This idea validation to negate this big reason for failure, no customer need. So many, you hear these things, fail fast. Well, you don't need to fail fast. You don't actually need to fail. You can start slowly by understanding your customers, and then you don't need to fail. So that's really, really important. And the second one I mentioned, the wrong team, there are lots and lots of ways of hiring the right team or joining the right team. And I don't know how much detail you'd like me to go into, but just as an overview, we have the facility now to meet people over the internet. It's a bit like the dating industry. And so you can use online platforms where there are co-founders. Yep. You can use LinkedIn to find the right people. So there are lots of places to find these people. There are also lots of personality profiling tests out there, like the Myers-Briggs ones and various other ones that you can find the people with the same chemistry to work with as you. So where to find them, the right chemistry, then finding the right skill sets. And then there are ways of putting together the co-founding team's equity that they didn't used to be.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, because there's these things like dynamic equity. When I used, and actually almost all the businesses I've been involved in, there's been a fixed equity structure. So let's say myself and you, Safira, we want to start up a business, and I've got this idea for a business, and we agree to go into it together. The normal way is, well, look, it's my idea, isn't it? So I want 70% and you have 30, and you say, yeah, but I'm going to work just as hard as you. And we agree a 60-40 split or something like that. And then some way down the line, maybe you're putting in a lot more work, and I've gone off to run another business or something, and it's not fair, but we're stuck with our fixed equity. Mm-hmm. So that can lead to co-founders falling out. A lot of times that actually does lead to problems. Whereas what there's now available to this early stage co-founding market is something called dynamic equity. And the one I like the most is it's a company called Slicing Pie, and it's all about your equity is the pie of your equity, and you each have you each build up your slices, and it's dependent on what your role is in the company, what you would be being paid to do in that role if the company was fully funded, and then you can work out your cost per hour, and then as you put time in, you grow your slices, and the pie grows, and as more people come in, and it encourages people to work, encourages people to, and they work for equity. And I really like that. It doesn't work very well once you get investors involved. So it's really the pre-seed stage or pre-series A. Investors don't want their money diluted, their equity diluted, but pre that. So there's lots of ways now of finding the right business partners, finding the right matches, but also structuring the right deals now that can be much fairer and don't cause the sorts of problems that I alluded to earlier. So there's some amazing things that can be done now to tackle the two biggest reasons for startup failure.
Well, thank you. I really like how you covered the dynamic equity. I think that a lot of times, at least from my experience, not directly, but just dealing with other friends in my space, they hire like this really big team and like all these assistants and like all these warehouse workers, and you end up, taking a large part of your capital just to cover employee and staff costs. And again, like you said, I believe the slicing pie. I'll make sure to add that into the description, just so, our viewers can look at it and see if it's a great model for them. But with that said, we are running out of time, but I don't want to, leave you without you being able to discuss Founders and Mentors. Where is it currently, and what are some of the services that you're currently providing to our audience and worldwide?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Founders and Mentors is actually, it's a platform sitting on Mighty Networks, and the organization that I'm part of is called 12 Ronnies, and we're a group of entrepreneurs and mentors and philanthropists that want to help people launch businesses and enjoy being an entrepreneur. I mean, it's changed my life. It's given me a lot of focus and passion and direction. And so one of the things that we do is this mentoring platform called Founders and Mentors. And it's as I mentioned, it's on Mighty Networks, and it's a global mentoring platform. And this is my main role at the moment, is been putting this together, and my passion around actually what has become not just a network of founders and mentors, but a network of communities in the pre-launch startup space. So we've got communities for creatives, writers, musicians, filmmakers. Writing a book for commercial reasons is like launching a business. And so we have creative communities with mentors that can talk the same language. We have communities for inventors. That's where it's much more technical. We've got geographical communities. So we've expanded out from the UK into the US and other territories. And we're growing different communities. And I'm absolutely loving it. And it's so important to have a mentor at the beginning of your journey.
Absolutely.
To just help you avoid some of the mistakes that you don't even know you're making.
I totally agree. Like, I have a mentor, as well as I am a part of the Founders and Mentors Network, but I actually have a local mentor, and I can honestly say that having his guidance has allowed me to not only elevate and level up as an entrepreneur, but also just enhance my business and my offerings. One thing I think is so amazing about a mentor is that they're really able to not only see things on a big picture scale, like where you want to be, what is your 5-year plan, but they're also able to really hone in and say, hey, this is a really cool idea. Additionally, my mentor has networks and, that I don't necessarily have access to if it wasn't via him. But one thing I do want to say about having a mentor is that I was very, very fortunate to have a mentor that absolutely positively believes in me. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from our conversation is just having, that other entrepreneur out there that's watching this video that maybe in the past that hasn't had an entrepreneur, or I'm sorry, a mentor that believed in them, how founders and mentors can really be sort of like that safe space for them in order to really come in and say, we're going to accept you where you are as an entrepreneur. We're going to help you level up. So my question is, like, who can join the Founders and Mentors Network? What do they have to do? What's the website? Let people know out there, Simon, how they can be a part of this great opportunity that you're giving to global entrepreneurs.
Of course. Well, firstly, it's free. The joining is free. The mentorship is free. We've set it up to deliver free mentorship. And the way to join it is really simple. If you go to community.12ronnies.com, community.12ronnies.com, you can sign up there. It's really easy to sign up. It'll take you a couple of minutes and you're into the network, and you'll receive, I personally welcome everybody onto the network. We run office hours to help people navigate the network. We also run an office hours in the States where it's run in a different time zone than I'm in. And so it's all about helping people, and it's really easy to sign up. And what I will say about the mentorship side that you mentioned earlier is it's not always finding a mentor that knows a particular area or a particular sector that well. It's finding one that has your back, that looks out for you, that wants you to succeed. It's easy on the network. Once you find that person, that mentor can easily find somebody that specializes in the sector to do the introductions for you, and they work on your behalf to help find the people on the network that have those particular skill sets or sector sets. So it's really about a mentor that believes in you and wants to help you.
I totally agree. Just from my experience with other mentors, it kind of like discouraged me a little bit once I was, got to a point in my entrepreneur career, because I just had the worst experiences. And because of the William Factory Incubator, I was able to find a great mentor, which is actually one of our sponsors now. So I definitely was so just excited and glad to know that you wanted to be a part of the From Local to Global series. Not just your amazing experience with customer validation, but just really being a part of this organization and founding it and allowing my audience to join completely complimentary. And I just thought that was, you were just such a great person that people can connect with and really relate to, especially when we are going through this era of the serial entrepreneur and how okay that is. So I just thought, speaking to you was seriously at the top of my list, and I'm so glad we were able to connect.
Thank you so much, Safira. I really appreciate that.
No problem at all. So I'm like, I totally, I enjoy our conversations, independently from this. And I'm really sure that the audience is going to grab so much information. So before we head out, Simon, is there anything else that you want to say? Any last words, just to sort of give someone that encouragement? Shout out again to the Founders and Mentors Network. I'll let you have the last word, Simon.
Yeah, I think that I'd like to close with how enjoyable it is being an entrepreneur. It's hard work. There is no way around it. It's hard work. You've got to put the time. But any job or anything you're going to succeed at, you're going to have to work hard. If you accept it's hard work and you're doing something you're passionate about, it's a great career being an entrepreneur, because you can move in different directions. It's your own boss, which is a really nice thing to be. Many people want that independence, and it's not as risky as people think. If you do it correctly, if you find your customers, if you do the things that we talked about on this call, it's not as risky as people think. So I would just encourage people to look at entrepreneurship as a career option, even if it's a side gig to start with, but as an option, because it's great fun.
Absolutely, Simon. I think those are great closing words. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the From Local to Global series. I'm definitely looking forward to growing with the Founders and Mentors organization, as well as, just getting to know a lot more about you and the other services that you provide. So thank you so much for being a part of this with me. And I'll definitely make sure to put all of Simon's information in the link in the description. Thanks again, Simon. Have a great day.
And you, Safira, my pleasure.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.